Hey, what is up YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders YouTube channel again. And I'm super excited to welcome you back to a long-awaited series, guys. The next chapter of Learning Mermails, Part 5. I, as you guys know, haven't done this series in a very long time. I think it's been like 2 or 3 years. I've had a lot of people request for continued videos, but just between things going on in life and stuff that sort of took precedence, I never really had the chance to show you guys more different stuff that you might need to know as you're learning the deck. And one of the most important videos that I forgot to show you guys, of course, was your Mermails and Atlanteans, one of the strongest sort of pieces to your entire deck here. And Mermails and Atlanteans are the main sort of combo piece. Mermails is a very combo-based deck, which means that, you know, you're not going to top deck into something good for the most part in this deck. It's mainly, you know, you're going to win your games mainly by playing smart, conserving your resources, and using them at the exact right moment to get a win. And that's one of the reasons why I like Mermails so much, is because it's a deck that rewards skill and thoughtful play over just memorizing a combo and just going for the combo. And the style of Mermail deck that I choose to play and that I really enjoy playing sort of tries to bring this skill-based aspect to the forefront. Mermails and Atlanteans are two different sides of the same coin, as I've mentioned several times before. You see, you have your Mermails. They, by themselves, would probably be, you know, a tier 4 or tier 5 style of deck. It's like you discard stuff. You discard a bunch of water monsters from your hand, maybe get some searches, and special summon the guys to the field. You're pretty much minusing yourself on most instances. Take a look at Megalo, for instance. Megalo, in order to special summon him to your board, he's a 2400 attack guy who's got a pretty decent effect, but when you special summon him to the field, you have to do so by discarding 2 water monsters from your deck to your hand. So already, you know, even though he nets you a search, already what you're doing is, in order to commit this guy to the field, you've got to take 3 cards out of your hand. One for Mermail, Abysslindae on the field, and the 2 cards you discard to the graveyard. Obviously, you know, that's a very troublesome kind of play. And that is where the Atlanteans come in. Now, the Atlanteans are very strong because they allow you to get pluses when they're discarded. By themselves, in their own dedicated deck, they suck. There was that Atlantean structure deck that came out that had all the different types of Atlanteans and stuff in there, and it was a really bad deck. You know, and there's no two bits about that, because, you know, you have to tribute your stuff off of, like, things to activate, like Poseidra and, you know, and special summon other different types of monsters from your deck. It just really wasn't all that good. And the reason for that being was because you had no discard outlets for your Atlanteans. A guy like Atlantean Dragoons is very good, but he's only good if you have another monster to discard. And Atlantean Dragoons by himself is just sort of an 1800 beater that does absolutely nothing. But Atlantean Dragoons with a discard outlet is very good, because if this card is discarded off of a water monster's effect, then it allows you to search any Sea Serpent in the entire game from your deck to your hand, which is beyond good. And of course, some of the best monsters you run are Sea Serpents, such as Mermail, Abysslindae, who is probably the biggest search off of the deck. Also, one of the cards you can search is Deep Sea Diva. And that ends up being a very strong play for you to make, especially during a turn 2 when you're trying to OTK your opponent. So, a little bit more into detail about some of the different styles of Mermail plays. Now, Mermails, as I've discussed, always look for cards to discard. By discarding something like Atlantean Dragoons off of Abysslindae, what you're doing is you're mitigating the cost of Megalo's discard. So as I mentioned, Megalo has the discard 2 and search 1, but you're pretty much -2ing yourself to do that. If you're discarding Atlantean Dragoons off of Megalo, Atlantean Dragoons' discard will allow you to self-replicate, so you're only losing a card advantage of 1 for that play. And you get the search for the other play as well. This also does not take your normal summon, and if you're going for the OTK, it's definitely the clean play to go. Now, even though this is still a -1 play, it is still very, very strong, but that was one of the reasons why Mermails were no longer run at competitive circuits years and years down the line. You'd always see them at events at the beginning of ban lists because everyone just sort of dusts off their old stuff and tries it out, and then once the new decks come around and they're determined to be able to plus a lot more often than Mermails are, Mermails are just sort of shoved off to the side and nobody decides to run them anymore. But that's one of the reasons why. It's a very strong deck, but it's very much a victim of the power creeping that we see so often in Yu-Gi-Oh! So a little bit of explanation about each of the cards now. So Atlantean Dragoons, when it's discarded by a water monster's effect, allows you to get a search of any Sea Serpent from your deck to your hand. Atlantean Marksman, when it's discarded for a water monster's effect, allows you to search or destroy any face-down card your opponent controls. Same thing for Atlantean Heavy Infantry, destroying face-up cards your opponent controls. So all of a sudden, if you have like Megalo and you discard Dragoons or Marksman, or Dragoons and Marksman off of it, now what Megalo will do is Megalo now becomes a 1-for-1 trade. You get Megalo to the board, you get a search. By discarding these two cards, Atlantean Dragoons will get you another search. Marksman will pop a card your opponent controls. So you're keeping the same card economy that you had before, but advancing your game state through wise and smart use of the specifics of the card economy, which I cannot stress the importance of enough. So with Atlantean Heavy Infantry and Marksmen and Dragoons, you're making a lot of different plays to focus around getting these guys to your hand so you can discard them for an outlet like Megalo. Or, of course, more importantly, as I was going to mention, Mermail Abysslindae. Because he's one of the cards that can help you to get some of your search plays off. As I mentioned in my deck profile, Mermail Abysslindae is a very, very strong search monster. One of the strongest in the game. And the reason that I say that Mermail Abysslindae is a strong search monster is because of how little effort he requires. Think of Megalo, but less costly. He doesn't do quite as much as Megalo when it comes to the OTK, so Megalo still has to be run in this deck. However, Abysslindae, he comes to the field by only discarding one of these guys. So one of the strongest ways to start your combos off is with Mermail Abysslindae and Atlantean Dragoons, because when Teus comes to the field, it will search you any for a level 4 lower Mermail. Atlantean Dragoons will search you any Sea Serpent. So what you're doing is you're taking your Teus and Dragoons now, and you're plussing. So you have Teus and Dragoons, 2 cards in hand. Discarding the Dragoons to special summon the Teus. Teus will self-replicate itself in hand by allowing you to search a Mermail, and Atlantean Dragoons will search you another card. So now what you've done is you've thinned your deck by 2 cards due to the 2 searches that you've gotten, and then Mermail Abysslindae is now on your field. So that is an extra play that you have and an extra level 7 monster. You also have not used your normal summon. And this card, of course, allows you to search Neptibus, Diva, whatever you want from your deck to your hand. So that ends up allowing you to continue to go off on all sorts of different plays. And that's sort of what's very, very important, is Teus is the combo that helps you to get your hand up to the point where it wouldn't be ill-advised to be able to discard off of a Megalo. You get your hand up to like 6 or 7 cards, pretty much all that free advantage can then be used with Megalo to discard and get it to the field to help facilitate an OTK. So now that I've discussed the pretty typical style of cards, I'm going to go into some of the more interesting interactions that you can have. And these are all sort of like the typical Mermail Atlantean cards. And if you wanted, of course, you can throw like Abyss Pike and stuff like that in there. But now I want to discuss some other cards in the deck, namely Neptibus the Atlantean Prince and Mermail Abysslindae. Reason why I want to discuss these two is because Neptibus the Atlantean Prince is a card that acts like a Mermail, and Mermail Abysslindae is a card that acts like an Atlantean. Don't ask me why they decided to make these decisions, guys. I could not tell you for the life of me. But basically, starting off with Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince, you remember how I said that they sort of stuck strictly to their ideas. Mermails do the discarding and the searching, and Atlanteans get discarded for the water monster's effects. It's a nice sort of combo play. However, when you have things like Neptibus and Gund, they sort of, I don't want to say throw a wrench into it, but they sort of change the dynamic and way that the deck is played. And Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince's special ability, is a very, very strong one that allows you to pretty much get a Dragoon play off first turn from your deck. And what you would do with this card is you can send any Atlantean from your deck to the grave to search an Atlantean from your deck to your hand. And what this does is it allows you to instantly tutor whatever Atlantean you want. You want to destroy something in your opponent's side of the field? Send marksmen or infantry. You want to grab something from your deck to your hand? Send Dragoons. Then this will instantly replicate whatever one you send. So this is a first turn, mill your deck, or thin your deck by 2, search you whatever Atlantean you need for your hand, and for instance, if you send the Dragoons, you can trigger and send another Dragoon. So Dragoons itself was very, very much an unsearchable card for a very long time. But Neptibus comes in and says, hey, now you can search Dragoons by discarding Dragoons, and then Dragoons can now replicate again. So what you're doing is you're now using one card, and you're turning that one card into 3. It's pretty much free searches. And if you mill Dragoons, of course, as you guys know, you thin your deck by 3 and not 2. And Dragoons being an Atlantean and therefore not once per turn activation style, you pretty much you pretty much have a lot of options to go for from there. Now, a lot of people really like the play of using Atlantean Prince to tribute, and then when it gets tributed, it can special summon a Atlantean back from the graveyard. So you usually have like one other water in your hand at least. So you have Neptibus and one other water. Use this play, tribute this to special summon, get your searches off, your Dragoons to your graveyard. Now you can tribute Neptibus to activate Megalo's effect to allow it to attack twice, which of course will trigger Neptibus' effect in grave because it was sent there for a water monster's effect as cost, and special summon Dragoons. You got 1800 and then most likely 29 and 29, which is pretty much game against an empty field. So you can see with only 3 cards, you're allowed to pretty much almost game your opponent. Now, the other side of this sort of equation here is Abysslindae, who is a Mermail that acts as an Atlantean. When this card is discarded, you can special summon any Mermail type monster you want from your graveyard. Now, this is great for getting off lots of different types of plays. Of course, it's searchable off of Mermail Abyss Pike. But let's say that, you don't have any Atlanteans in your hand and you have Mermail Abyss Megalo, right? Mermail Abyss Megalo wants to get that discard, but you want to get some extra effects or whatever off of it. So what you do in this instance is you use Megalo's effect, discarding Pike and Gunday to special summon. Since Gunday was discarded to the graveyard, it can activate its effect now, allowing you to special summon any other Mermail from your graveyard besides itself. If you've got a Teus in there, you can go for a rank 7 play, or for that BLS guy. Or what a lot of Mermail players like to do is just special summon the Mermail Abyss Pike. If you got another water in your hand, you can discard that water. If it's an Atlantean, great news for you. And get that out. Send the Mermail Abyss Pike to the grave to search any level 3 or any level 3 water monster from your deck to your hand, which is just super, super awesome. And now that Abyss Pike is on the board, he can act as a tribute outlet for Mermail Abyss Megalo. So now, what you've pretty much done, guys, is you've thinned your deck by a little bit more, and you also have Pike on the field in a perfect situation to allow your Megalo to get close to OTK range. So you guys can see how having something like Mermail Abyss Gunday, which doesn't directly just special summon Atlanteans, can actually be very, very beneficial for keeping up the sort of play style that you've become accustomed to. So that's sort of all these guys. The last one that I wanted to talk about right here, in terms of Mermails and Atlanteans that you might want to run more often, is Mermail Abysslindae. Now, Abysslindae is a card that a lot of people were not running for a very, very long time. And the reason for that was that Mermail Abysslindae is for lack of a better word, a slow card, meaning that it's not proactive, and it requires very much your opponent or like a turn of setup or something like that for you to be able to get this play off. Nothing against the card itself, but in the era that it was created, it was actually probably one of the best Mermails because it was the only thing that could tutor any Mermail that you wanted out of your deck. But Abysslindae and its ability to special summon means that you can get out different monsters. So you can get out a Megalo if you need it. You can get out a Pike, a Teus, a Turge, whatever you want out of your deck to the field in as quick a way as you want to get it there whenever it's destroyed. A lot of people like to use the Abyss cards, specifically Abyss Sphere, to be able to summon it during the end phase and then activate that effect to be able to special summon the monster that you're looking to special summon. And that ends up being that ends up sort of being a very, very strong play that you can try and get off. But most people just sort of like Mermail Abysslindae because it allows you to special summon something that can get an Atlantean discard off during your opponent's turn, and thereby disrupt the play with like something specific, like using a Mermail Abyss Pike to, against an Orcus player, for instance, to pop the orchestrated return that that they set, or the orchestrated trap card or whatever it's called, that that they set to their side of the board. It's like, okay, I know you searched this and I know you set this, so during your end phase, I'm gonna trigger that Abyss Sphere to grab Lindae. Lindae goes to the graveyard when Sphere dies. Special summon the Pike. Pike discards the Marksman. Marksman pops the back row and searches you a level 3 water. So you've pretty much thinned your deck by like 4 or 5 at this point, and also popped one of the key things that's going to stop your combo next turn. Now, the last 2 cards that I wanted to discuss, and of course there's a lot more like Osha and Neria and other things like that, but these guys, not a lot of people talk about them. Probably a little bit more Mander than Turge, but Turge is kind of like Pike's little brother, because instead of fetching a monster from your deck, he fetches a monster from your graveyard. However, there's no level limit to the monster you can fetch out. So you discard a water monster and grab any water monster back from your graveyard. Do note, however, if you discard and grab the same water monster, you don't get the effect off because it just sort of resolves at once. So like if you discard a Dragoons and grab the Dragoons back to your hand, you're not going to get the Dragoons effect. Unless the ruling is changed on that, of course. But this guy is really, really good for fetching back like Mula Glacia, for instance. My bad, it's like level 3 or lower water monsters, I'm sorry. So unlike the other one who fetched the level 3s, this guy fetches a level 3 or lowers, I guess. I guess I had a little bit too rosy sunglasses there, guys. I apologize. But this gives you a little bit more flexibility on what you can get back, though. Salvage does a lot of what his job is, so I think a lot of people have, sort of changed the way that they run things in this deck. And then finally, of course, guys, Mermail Abyss Mander he was awesome for that double Bahamut Shark play that you could do with Mermail Abyss Osha. But being able to increase the levels of your monsters to go for different types of XYZs and other kinds of plays, you can now even use him in this deck alongside your Lapis Dragon to go for the level 10 dinosaur monster that a lot of people have been running lately. Which I'm super, super excited for when that card, when I can finally get my hands on that card. But we kind of got to work with what we have here, guys, because of the quarantine. And as sad as that is, it's understandable, and safety definitely, far and away will come first. But guys, that's going to do it for the next round of stuff in our Learning Mermails profiles here, guys. I'm really, really excited to have brought this series back. And I'm also even more excited to hear what other things you guys might want to learn. I'm going to try and see if I can link all the rest of the Learning Mermail profiles in the comments section below. So you guys can go there and you guys can check out some of the videos and really sort of try and get your base knowledge of the deck up. The most important thing for me, guys, is making sure that that you guys understand how to play Mermails and you end up really, really liking the deck, because it is one of the most fun decks. It's one of the most skill-based decks. You're gonna be thinking about your different combo plays, but you're also gonna be having a great time, and that to me is super, super important at sort of fostering the growth of any Yu-Gi-Oh player. It's the deck that single-handedly made me better at the game, and I couldn't thank it enough for that, because I owe a lot of my success in this game to starting and playing with Mermails and learning how to pilot this deck. So guys, once again, I'd like to thank you so much for watching this video. If you appreciate this video or you liked it, please remember to give us a like, rate, comment, subscribe in the comment section below. And with that, guys, this has been the Mermail Master, and I'm signing out. Catch you guys next time. Peace.